Alright, here we are for round number 4 playing Elves. We're playing against one of my favorite Legacy Cube cards, Oust. So hopefully we can defeat Oust. Another 0-land hand, so what is this, number 5? That's a lot of them. Maybe it's number 4. Let's mulligan again. And I keep mulliganing into multiple, like 3-land hands. This hand looks pretty good. I do have a blue mana. Yeah, seems fine. I would like to keep one more land. If our Fyndhorn Elves dies, we're going to be in trouble if I don't have that other land. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Hopefully we're playing another good matchup. We haven't really played any of like the mid-range, like removal heavy decks. Elves has a pretty good matchup against a lot of the fair creature decks. Pretty good matchup against Burn. The bad matchups are stuff like Kuldotha Boros, like Evolving Wilds decks, basically. Decks that play red are the bad matchups for us. Decks that play red that aren't like all-in aggro decks. Yep, so Evolving Wilds almost always means blue-red. It basically never means any other deck besides blue-red. See what my opponent wants to do here. They've got Spell Stutter up right now, or they could burn one of my creatures. This has got to mean a burn spell, right? They're not going to let me untap like this. Also don't have enough mana for Distant Melody, unfortunately. Okay, the Well-Wisher is what went. Interesting. Guess I should probably just attack first with my Nettle Sentinel. I don't think Well-Wisher is a spell that matters in this matchup, but our opponent seems to think so. Not that it matters too much. If we don't draw a creature here and our opponent has another burn spell, we're going to have these dead cards in our hand. So I'm confident this is the best deck in the format we're playing against, this blue-red Delver deck. I don't think any other deck is actually even close. Like, I don't think there's any deck that's in the same... Or like, it's like we're not even playing the same format. So the reason I think it's the best deck in the format is it just doesn't have any really bad matchups. Like, it's got some kind of bad matchups, but it's got a lot of great matchups and a lot of good matchup, or a lot of like slightly unfavored matchups. Alright, I'm getting attacked. Am I getting ninja'd? I am getting ninja'd. Alright, well, nothing I can do about that. Really need to draw, I don't know, Aquarian Ranger would be a really nice one. Okay, cool. That's Aquarian Ranger. I think dealing my opponent 1 damage might be better than gaining life, but no, I'm going to be gaining a lot of life this turn. Yep. Get a Nettle Sentinel. Aquarian Ranger was by far our best draw right now. If our opponent comes back and watches, he can be all salty about how I had just terrible hand and now it became amazing. Because now I get to cast this. Fortunately, I don't have a way to actually do anything afterwards, but still pretty good. Okay. Just go ahead and do this before my opponent gets a chance to kill any of my creatures. If our opponent lets our Nettle Sentinel live, I'm gonna, like, obviously I'm gonna block the ninja here. Otherwise, I think I'll just let it through if he kills my Nettle Sentinel. It's not like I'm not gonna like untap 2 creatures or anything and block. Okay. Opponent's sitting on some variety of counter spells. I'm gonna not let him spell stutter me at least. I know for a fact my opponent's got multiple. They have spells they can cast because I already know about the the Fairy Miscreant that they just chose not to cast here. I don't know what they're keeping up the extra island for. I assume they have a spell stutter. Maybe they have a counterspell plus a spell stutter, and they want to hold them both up. So the only thing I can get through a spell stutter is this Vanguard. It's kind of what I want to cast first anyway. So the thing I really want to resolve is this Birchlar Rangers. That'll really let me go off. So yeah, I'm going to start off with the Elvish Vanguard, see what my opponent does. Let's see if that's enough to bait out a counterspell. If it's not, I'll just run out the Nettle Sentinel, another piece of bait for my opponent. It's a little unfortunate I'm missing out on all of these untapped triggers for this Nettle Sentinel because they could all be making mana for my Birchlar Rangers, but it is what it is. I don't think there's any way I'm going to be able to cast Distant Melody this turn, but there's no real reason not to just untap this and pick that up. So giving my opponent a nice, juicy spell stutter target. You want it, opponent? You want it? Nope. My opponent refuses to be baited. Smart. Very smart. So I can't, if I don't resolve this, I can't do anything, so let's just go ahead and attack with this Nettle Sentinel then. Yeah, okay. I mean, if they want to waste their mana, they can go ahead and waste it all they want. I'm assuming the only reason I could see why they would do that with their mana that way is if they had Counterspell plus Spell Stutter. Because if they just had Spell Stutter, they would have just left up Mountain plus an Island. If they had a Burn Spell, they would have probably used it at some point in there. At least I would have used it on something, at least on the end of turn, hit my Vanguard or something. So if I want, I can gain a billion million life with this Well-Wisher. So I'll block this with the Nettle Sentinel. And if he kills one Nettle Sentinel, I'll block with the other one. But he should just kill my Vanguard, or probably one of these three. There's no reason to kill this in order to bait out a block from this one. That's just stupid. Alright, Well-Wisher. Gain me some life. Okay. Bonus discard. I assume they're discarding a snow-covered island. They're kind of thinking about using a burn spell or something at some point in there, so I don't know what they were deciding. Okay. I think I'm going to run out this Huntmaster. That'll probably get hit by a counterspell, and then I can play the Birchlar Ranger. And I won't have I'll only have 3 mana after that. So that won't quite be what I want, but I can't really do anything differently, I don't think. This is a pretty juicy counterspell target for my opponent, so I'm sure they'll use it. I should have maybe considered just not casting anything this turn. Oh, let's probably go ahead and attack with my Nettle Sentinels. I shouldn't have untapped my Elves yet, I guess. They can kill my Elves now and I won't be able to cast my Birchlar Rangers. Alright, let's always yes to this. Alright. So Elves has always been kind of like nearly unwinnable for Delver, but this isn't a normal Delver deck. They've got actual removal spells and stuff in their deck. Alright, a Brainstorm. They just discarded a Shuffle effect last turn. Okay, they got their Fairy that they've been holding on to. Usually against me they always have 2 Fairies, so let's see if I get another one coming out. I do get to fire off Distant Melody 2 turns in a row here. Okay, that's actually a pretty good one because I'm going to run it out, and if my opponent counters it, then they won't really be able to do they won't be able to counter anything else. But I'm going to attack with my Nettle Sentinel first. I'd be perfectly happy to trade this with an insect. Yeah, sure. I mean, I do lose a little bit of value for my Distant Melodies and stuff, but I don't think they're going to resolve, at least not this turn. Nice juicy spell stutter target. It's possible I should have cast that first, but okay. Well, yeah, if my opponent wants to sit there. I know they have a Brainstorm that I'm letting them cast now, but I really don't want to just run both of these into a counter spell. I'd rather like play a 1-drop, and then if they choose to counter it, then I can play my Distant Melody afterwards, stuff like that. Alright. Drew a Bolt. They've drawn half of their removal spells at this point. I'm gonna go ahead and untap it. I could untap it one more time, but I don't really want to. I don't think the extra 5 life matters as much as the mana next turn. Alright, there's the other Fairy. This card is subtly, like, incredibly good. If they play one of these on... I'm way more scared if they play one of these turn 1 than, like, basically anything else that they could play. A Ninja? Jeez. Alright, if they don't have Island Counterspell, this is really risky. Alright, they do. Shoot. Well, I can play the Sylvan Ranger and see if they counter it. So next turn they won't be able to hold up double counterspell, so I think I'm just gonna... I think I'll pass the turn here. I could just go on like the dorky beatdown. Yep. So how much mana do I have next turn? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 with my Quarian Ranger. So I do have enough to cast both of these, so should be in pretty good shape. They also, so they are going to be able to spell stutter my Distant Melody, unfortunately, which is pretty annoying. But just not really much I can do about it. Yep. What's annoying about this deck is it's like extremely predictable. Like I just know what my opponent's going to be doing basically every turn, and it just doesn't matter. You often can't do anything about it. Alright. If I get dazed here, we're probably going to lose. Yeah, I could concede here, but I won't. Or did I have a second Quarian Ranger? Punt. I messed up. Give myself a punt. Alright, so I could have just untapped my Finharmon Elves and... Alright, well, we can't do anything here. Another ninja means another card, another counterspell. Yeah, I think we can probably concede safely. If we draw another land, we're done for. We can see what we would have drawn. I was going to tell my opponent that it was going to be the first game loss of this league, but so I can go ahead and get in for 4 and lose a creature and whatever. I kind of want to just concede, but I'll just play a Quarian Ranger. One thing you have to be really careful of with his daze there is you have to untap the Fyndhorn Elves before the daze resolves. I miscounted our mana and we had 1 more than I thought, so that was kind of what messed me up and just messed up. I screwed up. It'll be possible to see what would have happened over the next couple turns. Our opponent's not going to kill us anytime soon. I'm just going to keep running elves out there. Fortunately, none of them do anything, so I'm going to keep holding this forest so he is scared, I guess. I don't know. No flip. I will double block some of these ninjas at this point if he attacks. Our opponent probably should, oh, never mind. That makes sense, oust. I take it back. As I say, you should just keep this to see what your Delver is going to do. And you actually probably still should have done that, so. Because you can see what card's on top of Delver and then shuffle it away. It's like a cool trick, I guess, if you want to call it a trick. Alright, we keep drawing 1/1s. To be fair, most of our deck is 1/1s, so I am still playing this out for the fans, but we lost this on that turn that I didn't daze. I'm actually not sure that we would have won anyway, since all the cards we've drawn so far have been trash. So I've drawn these 3 so far, and I would not have been able to cast any of them that turn. So I've had 3 1/1s and a 4th 1/1. So this is what I would have drawn that turn, and then I would have had my next card. I had 2 more cards. My opponent would have probably had 2 counterspells up. So if my opponent only has 1 counterspell, I can draw like 2 Well-Wishers in a row or something, and then we could probably win. But we drew a forest, so okay, so it looks like I wouldn't have drawn anything anyway. Yeah, just none of our cards do anything. Our opponent is down to 16 cards in their deck, but 16 is not 0. The opponent is not killing us for some reason. They have lethal flyers. I obviously can't block any of them. Oh yeah, he's got the bolt, but still. Alright, so I would have drawn a couple more cards, but my opponent never tapped any mana that whole time. Yeah, so on the last turn, the turn that we died, would have drawn a Timberwatch Elf. Okay, so I believe that deck plays Electrickery in the sideboard. I'm not really sure, but I'm going to guess they do because they're red decks, so let's go ahead and play that. I want my bowmaster, I want my archers, and I guess I want this longbow probably. So this is a lot of cards. Let's go ahead and sort by converted mana cost. So what do we have that's bad? Well-Wisher is actually not that important despite it getting killed there. The problem is, even if I gain, like if I had gained 100 life there for free, I would have still lost that game. So it just doesn't really do enough. So I think I'm going to cut at least one of those. Cut that one. Fortunately, all the 1-drops are really bad. Sorry, I'm chatting with our opponent here. So I think we might have to cut, I don't know, some of our more expensive stuff. Maybe these Elvish Visionaries. Yeah, looks like we're both 3-0. My opponent is playing the best deck in the format, and I'm playing a pretty decent deck, but it's not as good as that deck. What do I want to take out? I think I'm going to take out the Well-Wishers again. I don't know if I want... Yeah, Spider Silk actually is great against these decks. I'm going to take out one Distant Melody, kind of expensive, one Huntmaster, a little expensive, and then... Gotta make one more cut. Got 30 seconds. Let's take out the Vanguard. No, let's take out this Priest. Okay. Don't want to tell my opponent my record. No spoilers. Alright, this hand seems pretty decent. I'll keep it. So Burning Longbow is going to be pretty decent against them, but it's really expensive and I don't have anything that untaps. Obviously I'm going to lead off with this Llanowar Elves, and then I think I'm going to go right ahead and play the Timberwatch Elf the next turn. If he can't kill it immediately, it's going to turn off his burn spells. Alright. So it looks like our opponent is going to have burn mana up. But he's got to have it. Let's see if I get dazed again. Dazed right out of the tournament. I assume this is getting a mountain so he can kill me. Kill my Timberwatch. The nice little Skred. The other benefit of playing the Timberwatch is Electricity doesn't kill it, so like if I play my Priest and like the Longbow, which I could have played, that would have really gotten me. Okay, it's got a bolt. So what do I want to draw here? Nettle Sentinel's okay, so I can Sylvan Ranger, Nettle Sentinel. I think I'm just going to play another Timberwatch though. He's got to have another burn spell. Let's see if I'm getting dazed out of the tournament this time. Nope. So my other option, I could have played the Sylvan Ranger and the Priest of Titania. That makes me really vulnerable to Electricity. And I'm not about that life. Not about that at all. This deck also plays that Swirling Sandstorm, so it's 4 damage to... It's 4 damage to all the creatures or whatever. Okay, Sylvan Ranger, yes. We get the island. Yeah, so Swirling Sandstorm is 4 damage to all the creatures without flying. Got our Priest. Obviously I am not going to attack for 1. So this can protect any of our creatures now from any burn spell that our opponent has. So that's good. The issue is if he leaves up red and then I try to attack or something, I can't, won't be able to get through. I'm also probably not going to deploy either of these unless I draw a Distant Melody, because I really don't want to get all my guys killed by Swirling Sandstorm. I can save one of them with the Timber Watch. If I draw a Quirion Ranger, I can save another one, but I'm not going to invest more stuff into it. Chose to not shuffle. Okay. Snow-covered forest. Yeah, let's just go ahead and attack with these. Chose not to shuffle makes me think he drew a sideboard card. I'm not just going to run one of these cards into I'm not going to run this or this into Spell Stutter. And I really, even now, like, Electrickery is still kind of brutal. That's a good draw. Now I can attack with these things right into that Delver anyways. He has to cast his Electrickery now. Yep. So I guess I'll just save this Priest. Kind of makes me want to cast my other oh, shoot. I forgot to tap my Elves. Well, it's probably not going to matter. I'm going to run this stuff out. We are going to lose to a Swirling Sandstorm, unfortunately, but I don't think this deck can really do anything about that. If I get double dazed here, then I did get punished for not floating the mana with my Llanowar Elves. See if he flips to a Swirling Sandstorm. He didn't have a fourth land before, so our opponent is now a couple turns away. It's possible I should have just let my Priest die so that I could hold up protection for my Timber Watch here. It's only weak to Lightning Bolt at this point. He doesn't have Scred mana anymore. I think I will probably trade with this if he attacks. Just trade with my Nettle Sentinel. Maybe I shouldn't. So, yeah, I'm not going to. Okay. So another land is pretty bad. Reason I didn't want to is if I drew a land, I got like a free on tap from my Nettle Sentinel. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to shoot down the two fairies first, I think. Yeah, let's do that. So of course my big problem here is I still don't have any answers to Swirling Sandstorm. Basically need to have all three of my Spider Silks out for that. Technically I probably should have played this forest and tapped my island and stuff and moved my longbow over, but I don't think I necessarily wanted to do that simply because I want to leave this guy up kind of no matter what. Like, it's not like I was gonna use him to ping a spell stutter or something. Okay, Ninja's cool. I could have blocked and pumped my Timberwatch Elf, but that's unnecessarily risky. Especially now that Scred does kill him again. Okay, hopefully I draw any spell. Any spell at all would be great. That's a pretty decent spell. Okay, let's go ahead and... well, I'll just play this. Okay. Let's kill that. Let's move that over here. Kill that. I'm gonna go ahead and just attack for 2. So as long as my opponent keeps holding up a red, I'll keep holding up my Timberwatch Elf. Them having to hold up 1 mana is more crippling to them than me holding up my Timberwatch. They discarded an island last turn, so they definitely have at least 1 more land, which means Swirling Sandstorm could get me pretty hard. Looks like they don't have it. It would obviously be a great time to cast it if he did. Kind of drawing a lot of blanks here, unfortunately. I guess I'll just attack with... let's just attack with both of these, I guess. It's possible... no, I was thinking it's possible I should be forcing him to deal with this stuff, but by pumping it. But he could just kill my Timberwatch and then I'd be out of luck. Alright. I think we saw this Gush go already. I think it's this one. So that one's gone. Alright. Ping-a-ling. Another Nettle Sentinel. It'll probably, well, it can't really get Spell Stuttered, so Spell Stutter doesn't really work against our board. Okay, let's go ahead and attack for 4. Alright. Oh, I did miss out. Well, not really, so yeah, I keep thinking I'm missing out on damage with this longbow, but I'm really not, since moving it doesn't really do anything. All my creatures are already dealing 1 damage with their tap ability anyway. So hopefully this doesn't find Swirling Sandstorm. Preordain. Preordain is fine. What I really need to draw is Aquarian Ranger. That would be the best draw. A little surprised now this stuff got countered. I mean, it's not stuff that really matters, but still. It's also possible at some point my opponent should have just like used this in order to like prevent 1 damage. Yep, gonna run this out. Let's attack. So we are at the point where if I have lethal, he has to like have a bolt for the creature I pump, plus then he needs another bolt to kill my Timberwatch Elf. If he has both of those, but he has to use both of them to kill my Timberwatch. Yeah, I think I'll just do it this way. And I'm going to go ahead and kill the Augur. So this is my opponent's last chance to draw the Swirling Sandstorm. 1 last Gush. Plus that Preordain. Even then, I'll have lethal with Aquarian Ranger, I guess. So I'll be able to attack with my Timberwatch, untap it, and give it +2. So Aquarian Ranger will be lethal even if my opponent casts Swirling Sandstorm. Bottom, top. So that means he found it. Yep. Okay, need a Quarian Ranger. Got lethal with the Quarian Ranger. Haven't seen one all game, I'm due. Elvish Vanguard, huh? Well. Guess I'll play it. I'll just equip the longbow to my Timberwatch. I've got so much extra mana, just doesn't really matter. The 3 mana to move it doesn't matter. We don't really have any outs to this card, other than winning before he gets Threshold. I've been trying to just play around, like, I haven't really been able to play around more than just a single bolt, basically the whole game, until last turn. Last turn it would have been, he would have needed 2 bolts. Okay, Delver. I could kill it with the longbow, but I won't. Okay. This does mean that bolt no longer kills my Timberwatch. Okay. Target creature. Yep, so he's going to double bolt it, I assume. Yep, so I've been playing around this stuff the whole game, and he did have it. So it did cost him both of them. I'm going to go ahead and kill his Delver. Alright. His longbow's been pretty decent, but we ran out of creatures. I mean, he's got tons of removal. Right on time, Quarian Ranger. Do I cast it? He's got to have at least 1 land in there, I would guess. It's kind of a beating if he has a spell stutter still. I'm sure he probably does. Okay, counterspell is not so bad. Maybe that was 2 turns too late. Yeah, 2 turns too late. Elvish Vanguard, Spider Silk. Okay, went bottom and top. Means it's a counterspell or a removal spell. Just gonna run that out there, I guess. Should have maybe waited 1 more turn to run that out. Is this gonna be a ninja? Okay, not a ninja. So here's the creature that's gonna get owned by a Scred. The only things he would put on top would be a Swirling Sandstorm or a Scred or a Counterspell. Since he didn't Counterspell, I knew it had to be a Scred most likely. Okay, he's on nothing. I got an elf. Draw Spell Stutter. Off the top, brutal. Brutal. It's possible I should have sandbagged one of my elves there, but I couldn't attack for any damage earlier. Yeah, I don't have any outs anymore. Opponent drew just enough at the end here. The top deck spells, like if he had top decked these in the opposite order, we would have actually almost certainly won this game. But he drew them in the right order. And that's what happens when you play the best deck in the format. You get to win. Good games, Oust. Enjoy the videos. You ruined my my 5-0. which makes sense. Makes sense that this happened. We actually probably would have timed you out, Oust, if you had if we had to go to game 3. All right. See you guys for the 5th and final round.